school counselor. This is for a garden club. Wanted to show you guys when we do container gardening, it's a way to control where things grow. This is a gourd plant that we have in our backyard. I try to do this in Zoom with some of the classes to show you that gourds and watermelons and stuff like that, it requires a lot of space. So if you don't have it, container gardening is a good way to go. I'm going to pause it and I'm going to go to the next type of vine, type of plant that I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so here guys, we have two things. We have a watermelon plant that we put here. The kids put it out here, I think. It might have come from seeds. They might have planted it. If it comes up all by itself, it's called a volunteer. And also, you guys might see what it looks like a mess back here, but it's actually a compost pile. And this is where we put our greens or anything that we don't eat. There's a coffee grinds. There is egg shells. We don't put any meat or anything out here, and then we ground it up with some leaves, and then after a while this will break down. We'll mix it, and then on the bottom of this there'll be a lot of good nutrients to add into soil that you have at home. All right, so right next to it is a potato plant. You guys can get potatoes, cut them up and put them in the ground, and so you could do that also. Like, you want to make it to where it's inexpensive. It doesn't cost you a whole lot of money, so you can actually take potatoes, cut them up, and put them in some soil, and they will take off. This is what we have right here, and I'm going to pause it. I'm going to go to the next thing. All right, guys, I know it doesn't look pretty for you guys, but as you can see, this is container gardening. My wife made this out of blocks. I think she got them for free from somewhere, and then she threw her plants on there. And then, as you can see on top of that, she's got some grass that serves as a covering to keep the moisture in the ground, so that way she doesn't have to water it as much. And it also helps with like weeds and stuff like that. All right, so here we have another raised garden that I might have made it, but I think my kid made it, and I guess he wasn't as patient as I would be, or maybe it was mine, I'm not sure. But you can see that it broke off, right? And then we have mulch on top, but we got some peppers growing in here that are pretty tasty. They're not super spicy, but they're actually pretty nice to eat. I have them in my tacos and stuff. Okay, so here's a nicer one. I built that not too long ago. It's pretty sturdy. I think it's well made. It's reinforced in the corners right there. And my wife is trying to control the vines there. So after they grow for a little bit, they're going to go into the neighbor's yard. And I think they're cool with it, so we're just going to leave it go. I'm going to walk over here a little bit, also show another raised bed. I think it's a recent one. I think I made that one too. It's got reinforced corners. And you can control a little bit, and then she's got, I think they call it a trellis. So like we just cut up stuff that we already had, and we're gonna have those plants grow up instead of all over the place. That's a way of control. And over here we're doing kind of the same thing, and I believe these are also volunteer watermelons that kind of just popped up. So remember, if you guys have a good environment, plants will just keep coming back, which is really cool. And I don't think we bought any seeds for these because they're kind of all over the place. So that right there is a bunch of containers that we have. My wife has some orange trees and other things that she kind of gets. I don't know all the plants, but they look really cool. And of course we have mulch on top there to retain moisture also. And some of these plants, when it gets too cold, we can move them inside. If it gets too cold here, which is kind of rare, but when it does, we can move them. All right, so we're in the back corner of our house. What you see here is just a bunch of leaves that when we walk around or we drive around the neighborhood, and people rake up their leaves and then they throw them in the trash. which is really not the right thing to do. What you should do is just cut your grass and then let it feed itself with the leaves and the clippings, which is the most natural way to maintain a lawn. But not everybody knows that. So what we're going to do is we're going to let these leaves break down, and on the bottom of this there's a lot of good nutrients that are going to start to grow. There's probably a bunch of worms in here, which is good, but just something to keep in mind, that it's not really a good thing to rake leaves up. I know it looks pretty and all, but it's good for the lawn to feed itself naturally. Alright guys, so we're seeing a couple of things here. You guys see there on the floor is cardboard. It's just boxes that we collect. Do we put them on the ground? It helps clear the weeds, it kills the weeds or anything that might be growing up. So that is helpful. They sell some covering that you can buy that will eliminate weeds. It's a little darker color, but you can pay for it, or you can use cardboard, which eventually will break down also, which is pretty good. But I wanted to share with you guys a container that my wife made. She also, I think she got these bricks for free somewhere, or maybe paid a couple of bucks. I don't remember, but anyways, it looks really nice, and I kind of wanted to share that with you guys because as far as containers, you can get real creative, which I think looks really cool. And that's the end of my video. I try to get the best parts of our garden. It's kind of messy, but that's cool. As long as you're growing stuff, is good.